One of the interesting features of your IFX 2.0 program and your phase 3 is that it has been designed to satisfy the requirements for both accelerated and full approval by the FDA. How did you work that out with the FDA, and also how does that save time and money for TuHURA as you advance the program in Merkel Cell Carcinoma?
Good question. We worked with the division and then with a group called the Oncology Center of Excellence. In 2017, what used to be called the Office of Oncology Drug Development, name was changed to the OCE, the Oncology Center of Excellence. We worked with the deputy director, who really proposed a kind of an interesting trial design, which we're really excited about. Probably the wave where you're going to see these types of studies, accelerated approval trials, move in the future. The first one was this Project Frontrunner initiative. So they saw our data for IFX in patients progressing on Merck's Keytruda and saw those data as encouraging enough to ask us to move it into the frontline treatment setting, do a randomized trial, Keytruda plus IFX 2.0 versus Keytruda, and see if we can improve the response rate to that drug in the 50% of patients who don't respond with this terrible cutaneous skin cancer called Merkel Cell Carcinoma. So that was the first aspect, right? Moving from a second line setting potentially into the frontline setting. In that trial, they've also encouraged us to use a key secondary endpoint. So for accelerated approval, the endpoint comes relatively quickly. You'll find out if you have been successful within 6 months after the enrollment's completed, where that approval is based on what they call a surrogate endpoint likely to predict clinical benefit, which is response rate. So if you hit response rate, you can get accelerated approval. And that can happen within, like I said, total time from start of the study to approval can be as short as 24 months. But they then recommended that we incorporated a key secondary endpoint, and that's called progression-free survival, which is a clinically beneficial endpoint. So it's not a surrogate. And if we incorporate that into the trial design, then we don't have to do what is typically required, which is what's called a post-approval confirmatory trial. And those trials are typically very expensive, take a long period of time. And so we don't have to do that. So we have the ability for a single study to give us an answer within 24 months from start to finish and 18 months start to finish, and approval potentially in 24 months. And then about 14, 15 months later, when that trial matures, if we hit the PFS, progression-free survival endpoint, that study will flip from accelerated to full approval.